to you with another random video, and today it is going to be about something that is maybe a little bit more on the negative side. It is going to be, yes, like the title says, the worst movies that the Nostalgia Critic has reviewed. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Nostalgia Critic basically is a sort of character, and by character I mean he is an actual person, but he is being played by a real person, but he is a character. So the important thing is that you don't take his reviews seriously. Don't go into thinking that these are really straightforward reviews. These are really comically driven reviews for the most part, and I think he succeeds on a good level in trying to establish humor with a lot of bad movies. And what you will notice is that if you do watch the Nostalgia Critic, he does review a lot of bad movies. So again, if you're watching it from that guy with the glasses, you probably already know all this, so I'm just kind of repeating myself here, but for you guys, but just for those who do not know, that's basically what he is, and that's what he does. And his real actual name is Doug Walker. So there's Doug Walker, the real person, and then the Nostalgia Critic, the character that he plays. And so basically I'm going to look at the ones that really stood out to me, the movies that I thought were the worst ones that he reviewed. Out of like all of the films that I've seen, there's some that are pretty bad, some that are just mediocre to me, and some that I don't think are as bad, but you can still maybe try to find something out of it to make fun of or find sort of unintentionally amusing. But for the most part, there are a lot of ones that are just really, really bad. But I'm going to list off the ones that I felt were probably the worst out of the ones that he reviewed. So again, this is not criticizing his review of it. It's presenting to the viewer basically what I think were the ones that really stood out to me. I don't necessarily know if he would contemplate a list of all the movies that he's done and picked which ones out of the ones that I picked as to be the worst. But these, in my opinion, are the worst ones. And I'm going to list 12 or 12 of them, and basically when I will count down this list, I am going to express why I believe it's really bad. So this is not intended to be a positive review. If you've watched a lot of my videos, I tend to be a little bit more positive with my reviews, and again, some people may not particularly enjoy that because they like criticism. I think it's by nature that we all like criticism more than we like praise, but personally I don't mind giving praise. I mean, I like praise as much as criticism to me. When I look at films, when I look at books and things like that, I mean, I enjoy being positive and I enjoy being critical. But I am a little bit more positive because of the movies that I've been through so far. I found that none of them seem to be on this par of level of what he's reviewed as really, really bad, for the most part. But who knows, maybe I will run into one of the bad ones. But I think for the most ones that I've chosen are at least decently good, or they can have some critical feedback as to who would appeal more to it. But for the most part, they're not. The movies that I review aren't necessarily so bad, but the ones that he's reviewing and that he's reviewed, and the ones that I am going to mention on this list, they're on the par of just really, really bad. I mean, at least from my opinion, I think these ones are really, really bad. So yeah, I mean, out of all the reviews that he's done, out of all the stuff that I've looked at and researched to make this video, for the most part, I was able to find 12, and I wanted to do 12 because I wanted to go a step beyond of what he does, which is when he usually does like a countdown or something, he'll do like 11, or he'll usually talk about 11 things, and this is not going to be a countdown. I find these all uniquely bad. I don't think one succeeds more than the other in being more bad. I think these are just all uniquely bad, And so I'm just going to list off reasons why I think they're bad, and I'll make sure to put the links to all of his reviews so you can watch the review fully and you can kind of see where I get from, because I've never seen any of these movies that are on the list here. I've only just watched his reviews of it, and I can already just tell by his review that it's a horrible movie and that I would not be able to sit through it. So these are just the movies that I wouldn't be able to sit through, but watching his review, I do find it amusing. I do find it hilarious. It's just, they're just movies that I could never really watch fully. Like, just seeing a review of it, I pretty much get what this movie is, and I pretty much understand the stupidity behind it. So, without further ado, let me discuss the ones that I found to be the worst. Now, this first one in particular, I don't think a lot of people really disliked so much, in particular because it was a 90s film, and again, it has that sort of maybe, I don't know, 90s-esque humor of Nickelodeon, and maybe that appeals to some people. But for me, I felt that this movie was just too bad to be funny, and I didn't think that it succeeded really on any level in trying to be funny. This movie happens to be Good Burger. And if you don't know, Good Burger is, I believe, the way the Nostalgia Critic explains it is that it's based off of a sketch on a show called All That, and it stars Kenan Thompson, who happens to be on SNL right now and actually doing comedy there. So for the most part, this film does sort of follow into that 90s nostalgia of Nickelodeon and kids television programming, which was a really big hit in the 90s for the most part. But for me, I can't say that this appeals at all to my nostalgia. I mean, I don't care whether this movie takes place in the 18th century. I mean, it doesn't matter. This movie to me is just bad. And the reason why I think it's just really horrible is just because the humor is not funny. It's obnoxious. It's not entertaining. It makes the audience feel dumb. Like, I mean, I feel like literally just dumb watching it, for the most part, because what they make people do and how the characters interact with each other is just so dumbed down that it's hard for me to even get a chuckle or a laugh out of it. When I was watching, in particular, Nostalgia Critic's review, he was talking particularly about the lines, because a lot of the lines in this movie are not funny at all. I mean, they just don't hit any note for me. I don't even chuckle out of them. I think towards the end, though, he does mention one joke that was actually good. But the thing is that joke was used time and time again before. I mean, it's nothing new at all. You could have gotten that from another movie as well. So to me, the jokes are just so bad that it literally sucks the dignity out of it. Because again, it's intended to be a comedy. So the writing is just yikes, just really bad. And as far as plot-wise, basically this movie follows our main character, protagonist, and Kenan Thompson's character, and how they come together, and how there is these two burger joints, one where Kenan Thompson and the main character work, and how there's another burger joint and they're both competing against each other to get more customers. And then they find out that the other burger place has sort of like a scheme going on. Again, it's that same similar plot formula of two competing businesses and one trying to, trump the other somehow. And then obviously the other burger place where the main protagonists are, there's obviously a bad guy, and the bad guy's just way over the top, not even funny. I think the concept is good for comedy. I mean, I think it could lead to a lot of funny moments, especially with these things like with competition. I think competition can lead to a lot of funny moments, The problem is that this movie does not use its plot, to its greatest advantage, and it does ridiculous things with it. Like at one point the main characters end up in a sane asylum, and it doesn't really make any sense as to why they would end up there, and why they would be there, because all it explains is that the villains who work for the other burger joint, they take them and they put them into the asylum. Well, how are they able to do that? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. The things, how they tie things together into the plot, just don't follow through. And then I think that's what sucks me even more out of it, is you have an okay premise, but then you just do some things that are just so stupid and go absolutely nowhere. There's also a point where they try to get a girl to just seduce the main character, and you'll see this in the review if you watch the review, and it doesn't lead to anything. It just tries to make fun of, like haha, have hilarity ensue, she'll get like hurt unintentionally, or and it's just not funny. It's just dumbed down humor, and it doesn't need to be made into a film. Like, this doesn't need to be a film. Like, it just doesn't. And I want to talk about one scene in particular before I move on to the next one, and that has to deal with the bloopity scene. Oh my gosh, the bloopity scene. Okay, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically the scene where the main character, I'm not kidding you, takes some grapes, plugs them up his nose, and then starts repeating the words bloobity bloobity because somehow that's humorous. Because they look like boogers or something. It's just so stupid. I mean, it's not even funny, gross humor. It's just gross, stupid humor that it doesn't have a point. It doesn't have a premise. Look, I am so-and-so, laugh at me, ha ha ha. It's like, watch me do this. Isn't that funny? Watch me put grapes up my nose and be annoying. I mean, the character, the main character, oh my gosh, the main character, Kenan Thompson's friend, the main protagonist, is just so annoying in this movie. So obnoxious. And that smile at the end of, like, the line of, "Welcome to the Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. May I take your order?" How is that supposed to be funny? For some reason, that line is supposed to have some kind of comedic effect, but to me, it doesn't. It's not funny. It's like what any salesman could say, and make it sound like it's amusing. But to me, it isn't. And whenever he smiles, I really get the same reactions Nostalgia Critic does in his review. I really just get mad because it's just showing human stupidity. I mean, it's literally putting human stupidity up on the screen and showing it to you. And to be honest, this character is just not funny. He has nothing, there's nothing engaging about him. There's nothing really. Kenan Thompson's character is probably the only one that's actually a little bit more likable. And I'd say probably also the older guy, that's the guy that plays the Godfather, plays in The Godfather. I apologize, I forget his name. Name escapes me. But those two are actually decent, but they're just overshadowed by the sheer stupidity of the main character, and oh gosh, it's just painful to watch. I mean, they seem like that they don't belong there, and like everybody else, and Sinbad's also in this movie, Sinbad the comedian, and even that is really frustrating. Because he's not funny in it, unfortunately. And it just leads to a lot of stuff that is just not substantial, nothing worth your while or worth your time. It's just like watching, it's like eating junk food almost. This is like a junk food kind of a movie. I would rather do so much more with my time. I'd rather get out of the house and walk. I would just rather do that than ever watch this film. Like, to be honest, there's just some things that I'd rather do than watch an entire movie, and this film is considered to be one of them because it's just so noxious. doesn't know what it wants to do with itself. It's just really, really dumb. No other word to describe it. It's just dumb. It doesn't have a point. And to me, it does not appeal to my nostalgia. I was born in 92 and don't care. Don't care whenever this film was made. It does not appeal to my nostalgia 100%, not even a tingling. And I did watch Nickelodeon when I was a kid. I didn't really watch all that, but still I knew these kinds of sort of comedies that were going on. And you know, sometimes they were funny, but for me, I just never got into it as a kid, and I never thought it was just that funny or amusing. And this humor is just so just not funny that it really doesn't provide anything. And literally when the burgers explode in the climax, I'm not kidding you, burgers explode in the climax, it's pretty ridiculous. But when they do, I just go, okay, this movie is completely... That's basically what the movie is. Like, you just see burgers explode and you just look at yourself going, yeah, okay, that's just sheer disgust. Okay, this is exactly how I feel about this film. If I had to sum up this film in a nutshell, just watch the burger explosion scene and you'll see how absurd and how stupid this movie is. And again, you know, how can burgers explode just by having chemicals mixed with them, or, you know, it does not make sense. There's no logic in it, and there's no time or effort put into it. They just thought, hey, we should just let burgers explode for no reason. And it's dumb, and I just don't understand why they would make such a film, because I can't get through it. I wouldn't be able to watch this movie with my eyes peeled open. It's just, there's just no salvage value to it at all. Nothing that I could hold on to or get interested in. Kenan Thompson being in this film doesn't help. Having the guy from The Godfather doesn't help, because he's basically treated as like a walking caricature, and Kenan Thompson is Kenan Thompson pretty much throughout the entire thing. I could watch an SNL skit and I would get probably the same thing. I can watch an All That skit and basically that's what Kenan Thompson does. It's the same thing. It's that same kid who, you know, same sort of, you know, more underdogish kid. And it's, I just don't need to see it. It's not salvageable. It's not doing anything. It's providing me with nothing. And on top of the bad humor, the stupid plot, the bloopity scene, which really the bloopity scene, I believe, is the 11th level of hell. Trust me. I cannot agree with Nostalgia Critic more on that. But watch his review fully and you will understand everything that I'm saying. But again, I think I intended this video to be more for that guy with the glasses viewers, so you guys kind of know, because you already know these reviews. You've probably seen these reviews. Although, however, if you've not, I suggest that you check them out. If you maybe skipped one over, because I know he's done a lot of reviews. But the Good Burger, yeah, it's just, I just can't get through that one. I just would not be able to get through that movie, and the way how everything is set up and presented, it's just nothing there, and I can't find anything of substance. And I think that's really the big problem that I had with this movie. It was just absurd, an absurd 90s movie with a lack of substance, and it had some potential with, you know, the competition kind of plot, but it went with it absolutely over the wall and chose to do things that were just completely unfunny and just stupid, that I just cannot see how it's funny or how it's amusing, because to me it isn't. I don't find it amusing, and I don't find any of this movie good from watching the review, and I can already tell it's just a bad movie by just watching this review and listening to what he basically explains out through the movie. So yeah, definitely not Definitely one of the ones that really did not rub me the right way at all. And it's one of those ones that I remember. I will always remember the Good Burger one, because that one, for some reason, to me, from what I've explained, it just bothered me so much, irritated me so much. I think the line was drawn, I think, at the Bluebity scene, because I'm thinking to myself, literally somebody is that desperate to put grapes up their nose and literally try to make something funny out of that. It's just I can't even address it, because it's just so creepy even seeing the guy whiff the grapes up his nose. So enough of that. I think that's really all I could explain for the first one, for Good Burger. So yeah, Good Burger was just one of the worst. I found to be one of the worst comedies, at least, that the Nostalgia Critic reviewed. Now the next one I'm going to review is sort of similar in the sense that it is sort of has this kind of disgusting-ish humor, and it kind of has a disgusting name. Garbage Pail Kids. Oh yeah, this is probably one of the worst. I think out of all of the ones, I think it's safe to say that a lot of people out there are like, oh yeah, Garbage Pail Kids, way up there out of all of what the Nostalgia Critic has reviewed. This is probably one of the worst. And I would say, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. I think what that has to do with is the fact that they make these Garbage Pail Kids just so obnoxious and not likable. They're basically like the Seven Dwarfs if you sucked out all of the likability, all of the charm, all of the joy that comes out of them, and just replaced it with just scary looking deformed Chucky dolls. Because basically these are what these Garbage Pail Kids look like. They're just so creepy to even look at, that, my god, that just brings the movie down to a huge amount of low. I mean, it's just so, ugh. And the problem is that they're not likable. They're just really annoying. They just go about and do obnoxious things that don't resonate with the plot or give them any certain kind of depth. They're just they absolutely offer nothing salvageable. And they're not even really technically the main characters. The main character is just a 14-year-old boy, and I apologize, I forget his name. But, because, again, these movies, after you watch them, you just forget everything that was in them. It's not a movie where I come back and I remember something so much out of it, because it is really forgettable. But for the most part, it focuses more on the boy and how he's trying to impress this one girl who is a part of a bullying crowd. And then you have the stereotypical bully, who doesn't have any depth either. I've never liked those in movies. I think it's like the easiest cliche in the book to just basically put this 20-something-year-old and have him beat up a 15-year-old, which does not make sense. And it's just ridiculous. And I think a lot of the pointless moments, like the Nostalgia Critic will say, is basically when the Garbage Pail Kids are on screen, because basically they offer nothing. All they offer is just that little theme, sort of, that goes at the end that says, hey, you know what, shouldn't judge by your looks. But it's just so lost because they don't provide anything of that. And they don't move the plot forward. All they do is they're just set up as caricatures, because that's basically what they are. If you watch his review, you'll realize that he says that basically they were originally trading cards. And somebody decided, hey, why don't we make a movie about that? And, oh my gosh. When they sing, it's painful. When they talk, it's painful. When the kid is trying to impress the girl, and the scary thing is the kid's 14 or 15, and the girl looks like in her 20s. It's so creepy. And the thing is, besides the pointless moments, besides the annoying characters, in particular the Garbage Pail Kids, the kid, I think, is the most likable out of all of the characters, pretty much, even if you could call them characters. But the relationships are just so awkward. The fact that he has, I mean, I understand that younger kids may have crushes on, like, older kids. I mean, I think that's understandable. But actually having that fully pursued, like, that's when it gets borderline creepy. And there's one scene where she's literally seducing him, or like she literally like kisses his ear at one point, and the Nostalgia Critic's like, you can go to jail for that. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, why did they put that scene in there? That's just so creepy. She should just be upfront with him and say, hey, you know what, you're kind of too young for me, I apologize. That's how you would make it in real life. That's how the relationship would work out. You wouldn't just suddenly, just go with this. I mean, you would, it's not logical. And they're trying to present this in a logical present day period. Similar with the Good Burger movie, but again, burgers in the 21st century sort of make sense. But here, it's just so illogical and just so awkward to watch that relationship. And it's awkward to even watch the bullies, because the bullies, they have really no reason to bully him. It doesn't make any sense. And then they try to tie these plot points together, but then they can't mesh them to where they make sense. And then at one bit it talks about how the ugly people gets sent to this ugly place, and they're trying to put this in present day, like somebody would do that. Yeah, there's an actual establishment called, where they put ugly people. It doesn't make sense. And then at one point the Garbage Pail Kids are captured by this institution, and it's just ridiculous, and it goes absolutely nowhere, offers nothing to the plot. And although I will say at the end, the kid kind of seems to grow. He does learn that, I shouldn't judge for people's looks, and then he realizes, that even the girl that he likes is really pretty. He realizes, deep down she's not really the nicest person, because she does sort of use him throughout the entire thing, especially when it comes to the whole plot where the Garbage Pail Kids being able to sew, and her being able to sell the clothes. So for the most part, he does learn something. That's the only likable thing really about it, is just that one character. But he's in just an absurdity of stupidity, an absurdity of craziness that you almost forget about him, and you just sort of are just left with the awfulness that is this movie. So yeah, I think we can maybe come to a consensus that maybe Garbage Pail Kids is maybe up there in probably one of the worst that Doug Walker's reviewed. Good Burger is probably more of my personal opinion, but I think from what I've highlighted, it's basically all I can say about Garbage Pail Kids. Oh gosh. The next one I'm going to mention is actually one that a lot of people don't really talk about as being the worst. But for me, this one rubs me really, it just, I still kind of remember it. It's one of those things like the Good Burger where I do remember. And with Garbage Pail Kids, I did remember too. Because, oh god, who could remember those ugly faces? I'm sorry. Apologies to all you ugly Garbage Pail Kid fans out there, but the dolls that they made were just so creepy. It's just literally nightmares. But with this movie, this is a different kind of nightmare, because you have things that don't make sense. In North, there is just a ton of lame jokes that don't have any charm or sophistication to them. At one point, Elijah Wood is displayed, and I'm not kidding you, Elijah Wood stars in this, and he's a young kid during this time period when this movie was made, and they literally have a billboard of him, and literally basically a crab is pulling down his trunks so you can see his butt. And basically, at one point, and I will try to explain this how it encompasses into the plot, but basically the parents that are willing to adopt him say, we're going to display this everywhere so that everybody can see. And obviously Elijah Wood has the right reactions going, but it's just so absurd and just so not funny, and so kind of just stupid. Why would you do this? This doesn't make any sense. How is this funny? It just has these lame jokes that attempt to be hilarious, haha, look at Elijah Wood's butt. How is that funny? How is seeing a young boy's buttocks is the most hilarious thing in the world. It's absurd. And then the thing is those you have to understand is Elijah Wood basically is having problems with his parents, and he wants to basically divorce them, and so he has different potential suitors as to who could be his next parents, and then each household that he goes through again is basically crazy. There's one point where there's like this Texan stereotypical family / couple, and what comes out of those scenes are just, oh my lord, just why? It's not realistic at all. Not in a way how people really react or how people deal with family situations. And that's the thing, you need to make family stuff more on the lines of realistic. You have to make the relationship work. And the problem is that they're just so absurd and so out there that it's hard. And Siskel and Ebert, like the most famous critics of all time, actually said that this was probably one of the worst ones that they've seen. And they reviewed some bad movies too, like the Tom and Jerry movie, and other films as well, Batman and Robin, and they said that this, for them, was worse somehow. And you'll see this in the Nostalgia Critic's review. And to me, I totally get that. I mean, Batman and Robin is just mediocre to me for the most part. I mean, it is very mediocre. And it is a bad movie, to me at least, but it's just mediocre. This, to me, is worse because it's trying to involve kids and it's trying to involve family. And when you try to do that stuff, and trying to incorporate all of these stereotypes and almost being really downright insulting at times, there's also an Eskimo family, and you'll also see if you watch the review like how absurd these things are that these writers come up with. And then they come up with actually a good family. Elijah Wood goes from one family to the next family to the next family. And then he finally comes to a good family, and for some reason, don't like it. And you don't see any growth from him whatsoever throughout this entire thing. It's just sheer stupidity. And then they go for the lowest common denominator ending, trust me. Literally everything that has led up to this whole, divorce of the family and everything, that's all sort of a not an actual thing that really happens. It all ends up being in this sort of cliched form. Like, somebody is having a bad life. What does it happen? Somebody has a dream. It's similar to Alice in Alice in Wonderland. For example, Alice is dreaming because she wants to get away from the life that she has. And then she goes through all of these absurdities, and then she finally comes out of it. But the thing is you have to do that and make that entertaining and make it worth us our time so that we invest into that dream and we realize the implications of that dream and what it has on Alice as a character. But for Elijah Wood in this movie, it does absolutely nothing, and then once he gets back into the real world, once he gets back out of his dream, it does absolutely nothing salvageable. And so the audience is left with being angry and just completely shown how much of a waste of time the movie was. And don't get me wrong, but Bruce Willis is in this movie and he's dressed as a bunny. I'm not kidding you. Actually seeing him being dressed as a bunny was actually kind of amusing to me. But for the most part, Bruce Willis, all he does is give little prose of inspiration. He offers nothing salvageable. There's no character structure at all to him. It's just this, and it's so hard to take this movie seriously, and to make it so to have it be a dream and say, yeah, we're going to go for the lowest common denominator here, and we're going to show that we literally wasted your time with this movie, is just so hard for someone like me to not get mad at it, because it is really, really dumb. Even watching a review for it makes me mad at it. that something like this would just be created, and have Elijah Wood star in it. Why, Elijah? Why did you? I know you were a kid, but why? So I think that's all I can say about that movie. It was just stupidity on top of stupidity, on top of suck, and on top of all the most horrendous words you could possibly imagine. That's pretty much how I would sum up North. That's pretty much how I would describe how disappointing it is, and how it could have had potential, but it chose to do stupid and absurd things, stereotypical things that normal people wouldn't do, and have no sense into it, and it's just bothering, and it's painful. It's literally, it's not fun, it's not interesting, it's not engaging, it's bad, to me at least. I just thought that was one of the worst. Because to me, I thought some other ones were just sort of mediocre. But this one just takes the cake for me in this case, compared to like Tom and Jerry, the movie, where I just thought it's bad, but it's bad because it doesn't do what a Tom and Jerry movie is supposed to do. But with this movie, it's just bad on its own. You don't need any other outside context. It's just bad to the bone, and could have done so much better, but chose not to. And it failed miserably. So yeah, that's North for you. Completely utter garbage for me. The next one I wanted to talk about was another one where even George Lucas himself made this movie, and you probably know what I'm talking about. Even George Lucas said that this was the one project he was personally ashamed of. Alright? Now just take that in for a moment, all you Star Wars fans out there watching this video. Think about that. He says the prequels, okay. But this he says personally ashamed of. I mean, I understand if you maybe, I mean, the prequels weren't perfect. I don't think they were so bad as people make them out to be. I mean, yes, they're just mediocre, but for the most part, I mean, I don't think they're just so bad. But by Star Wars standards, I guess you could say that. But this movie, this Star Wars special by itself is just so removed from what Star Wars is that you wouldn't even know it was a Star Wars movie. And that's the problem. With the prequels, I still get a sense that there was these kinds of things going on dealing with Star Wars. I felt like that there was some investment and time put into them, for the most part, even though they may have turned out mediocre. But for me, this has nothing to do with Star Wars. And basically, this is the Star Wars Holiday Special. This special, where do I even begin with this special? This special has no plot whatsoever. What do you want? Yeah, yes please. 7:30 or 7:15 like usual. Yeah, because I have to be there at 9. Okay. Or, yeah, 7:15. Awesome. You too. Apologies, somebody was asking me something. Just wanna, because I don't want to start this whole thing again, because I mean I can't do that. If I get a little interruption, I don't think that's really a big deal. That was just my apologies. Basically what I was trying to say about the Star Wars prequel was, oh my gosh, what can I say? Star Wars Holiday Special. This holiday special, to me, is nothing like what Star Wars was intended to be or supposed to be. And I haven't even seen the original Star Wars. I've only seen the prequels because I never grew up with Star Wars. I never really knew about Star Wars. I think that was more my dad's era, and I just never got a chance to watch them. And I'm planning to maybe watch them and actually review them. But we'll see where that goes, if I can find them. But for the most part, this is just so not like it, because all of the scenes don't have any action for the most part in them. They are just basically like Wookiee time. Like basically you get scenes and scenes and scenes of Wookiees, and you know, when Wookiees talk, they have this really, really weird voice, like the I can't even do it, but and just imagine like people talking like that. That's basically what it's like, because that's basically all the Wookiees do. And literally, I'm not kidding you, there is an awkward moment where a Wookiee is sort of, I don't know, in like this dream state with this woman. It's the weirdest thing. So weird, so odd, so uninteresting. You just can't help but laugh at how stupid and how horrible it is. It's really hard to sit through. This for me is really hard to sit through. I'd rather sit through the prequels, to be honest. I'd rather sit through the prequels because at least stuff is happening and some of it makes sense. But in this special, nothing makes sense. Nothing identifies itself as Star Wars. Nothing signifies that this is a Star Wars type-esque thing. It does nothing for Star Wars. And it has no story, really. It really doesn't. And at one point they go into cartoon form, and then that kind of doesn't go anywhere. Like the Star Wars characters go into cartoon form, and it doesn't make any sense and doesn't offer anything. Like, it doesn't even really have a plot so much as it is of anything. Nothing ties together in this movie. At least the other movies that I mentioned tie something together. They're just so loosely and so badly constructed that it's like looking at a deformed building. But with this one, it's looking at like pieces that are just all thrown apart and don't coincide together or mean anything together. You know, there's a whole plot of a bar on Tatooine closing. Like, literally, this is what is in this movie. I'm not kidding you. And then they want to try to make this whole point about Life Day. That's basically what the holiday special means, is Life Day. We have no idea what Life Day ends up meaning. We end up knowing absolutely nothing. Nothing happens in this movie. It's literally pointless filler scenes that you could have seen on a deleted scene from maybe the prequels, because they're just that insignificant. There's just nothing salvageable about it. It's just awkward because the scenes don't make sense. You know, Wookiees suddenly like, oh, they need to like fix something, so we're going to show you an instruction video. Why are you showing us this? What's the point? There is no point, and that's the problem. There is no point to this, and I think this one was probably one of the most painful to watch, because again, the Nostalgia Critic does make it funny, but it is just painful. Oh my god. Ugh. I mean, I'm surprised somebody said on that Guy with the Glasses website, I think it was a Cinema Snob or something, he said, oh, I would still rather watch the holiday special than the prequels. Okay, I'm sorry, dude, but this is just, no. Okay, I'd rather watch the prequels. I'd rather watch all 3 in a row than sit and watch this a second of this special, because this special offers nothing. At least the sequels tried to do it, but do it mediocrely. This accomplishes absolutely nothing, and it absolutely has nothing there. That it's very mad and very irritating to watch. And I'm not even a Star Wars fan. I don't even know anything about Star Wars that much. I mean, all I know is, you know, famous line, Luke, I'm your father, and I kind of know what the whole plot is. But for the most part, I don't know, like, so much. But this, by itself, is just painful. I mean, just god-awful painful, because nothing is going on. It's so boring. It's so dull. It's like watching paint dry. I mean, I'd rather watch paint dry. I really would. I'd really rather watch paint dry than this Star Wars special. Okay, this video is probably going to go on for a really long time because I haven't even gotten to half of them yet. but we're almost there. The next one that I want to talk about is probably one of the famous ones, and probably one of the ones you'd say, yep, that's probably up there, and that's The Room. The Room, how do I describe The Room? The Room has really bad acting. Okay, the acting is just, oh my gosh. And that's the problem, I think, for the most part. You don't care about the actors because they're horrible characters, first of all, too. Not only they're horrible characters, but they're horrible actors, too. So if they maybe had a likable personality, or character, then I wouldn't mind so much the acting. But if you have a combination of both, then boy, do you get a bad film. And this is just a bad film. This is like movie 101 on how not to make a film. This film really knows what it's, people should take notes down of what not to do in a film. And what not to do in the film is basically what everything is done in all the things that are done in The Room. Pretty much. The scenes have no purpose, especially when the main character goes out, they go play football, no point. And I think the mix of the pointless scenes, the bad characters, and the bad acting is just what make it so bad, and make it so classically bad, because when you have bad acting, it's very, very hard to make a film carry itself. And when you don't have likable characters, then that makes it even harder. The reason why I say these characters aren't likable is because they're all just really, really dumb. And in particular Lisa. I mean, Lisa's probably the worst one, just because she's just so selfish. At one point she's like, "Oh, I'm so unhappy," and her mom is telling her that she has cancer, and then she's saying like how she's so unhappy with her life, and I'm thinking, God, what kind of a character is this? Who literally sit down and said, yeah, this is gonna be our one of the main characters, and and she's not even really intended to be a villain. It's almost like it's just a really bad soap opera. I think that's the best way I can describe it. It's a really, really bad soap opera. This is really soap opera-y because there's cheating, there's misunderstanding, there's all this stupid, pointless stuff that does not make sense or doesn't offer much. There's pointless scenes, there's awkward scenes, and they don't mesh together or provide anything of substance. We don't really know the characters' motivations. We don't know why Lisa, for some reason, doesn't like her husband anymore. She just says that she doesn't like him. She doesn't even explain why, really. I mean, I could kind of understand because he is a little bit, Tommy Wiseau's character is really annoying, but again, he's not really like a jerk, and he's not really most bad. His acting is horrible. And there are scenes that really play him out sort of as the jerk, but he's never really a jerk towards Lisa, so it doesn't mesh. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have any structure. And in order to make a good soap opera, you gotta have good plots and you gotta have good drama. And this is just bad drama because it is bad acting and it has bad characters. So when you don't have those two together, you get a really bad soap opera, and this is kind of what this movie is. It's a little bit soap opera-y. I think that this movie was trying to sort of be like the soap opera. Or it could have been a sex tape gone wrong. I have no idea. But for the most part, this movie is just cringeworthy. It's just really, really, really just movie. Not how to make a movie 101, pretty much. If you're in the film industry, just watch this movie and you'll understand. You'll understand why you shouldn't do this and why you shouldn't do that. It's basically that kind of 101 tutoring that I think would really help people who want to be in the movie industry. Why and what they shouldn't do. So, that's all I think I can say about that one. The next one that I'm going to mention is another 90s one. That was Pauly Shore. Yeah, and it's called Biodome. And oh my god, Biodome. Like this helicopter or whatever's, making noise outside, this literally makes my head do this. Make that noise inside, because when I think about this movie, I just think of how it's destroying my brain cells. It's like literally killing me to watch this movie. I'm suddenly literally becoming old watching this movie. Reasons being is that there are really stupid characters. I mean, Pauly Shore's character is stupid. His companion is stupid. The girlfriends and the girlfriends are stupid, and it has to do with the fact that the girlfriends are stupid for being with these two stupid boys, and the boys are really stupid because they do absolutely nothing funny, and they're not intelligent or offer anything that rational, that explains that they are normal functioning human beings, because everything that they do is just so outrageous and so childlike that even a 5-year-old would probably look at them and go, okay, these boys are stupid. I mean, literally, because they act like decrepit children who do not know how to function in today's society. It's so out there and so crazy, and they're just so dumb. And then the thing is that you can have dumb characters, but make it funny. And the thing is they're not funny. And when you don't have that, it's really destroys it. And I think it's unique sort of towards Good Burger, because at least Good Burger had maybe a good idea going for it with the whole burger rivalry. But this plot here, check what this plot is. It's basically they get stuck in a biodome. They get stuck in a biodome. That's pretty much the entire thing. And the whole point is I guess, for them to learn about the environment. But they don't learn jack. I mean, it's completely pointless. It offers nothing. And it's that same kind of stupidity. And that same kind of dumbness that really is just so annoying. It's so obnoxious that it leaves me with sadness and pity, and oh my gosh, it's just these actors. I just can't believe. And one scene in particular, and this is where it really kind of got me mad, was when they were trying to assault women in their sleep. How is that funny? Trying to rape women in their sleep. How stupid are you? I mean, literally, are you that dumb? Oh my gosh, it's just, they do the dumbest stuff. And I think the problem that I have is just these two characters and how they're given absolutely nothing salvageable to do throughout the entire movie. And Pauly Shore just does such an awful job of trying to be funny. And it's just bad. It's just bad. It's on that level of Good Burger for me, because it's just that stupidness of stupidity that really irks me and really bothers me. And to me, at least Good Burger tried to make a plot. This movie has no plot. All it does is all it's about is just trying to get you aware of the environment, but it fails to do that. It fails on its attempted theme. Same with Good Burger, which I don't even think Good Burger really even had a theme. So I guess you could say that one of them has something and the other one doesn't, and then the other one has something and the other one doesn't. But for the most part, it just offers up the same garbage. But I think it's worse because here it's done more for physical humor, whereas Good Burger's more done with lines and dialogue, and here it's just like them doing stuff. It's not them having dialogue. It's just them like doing crazy stuff, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's stupid, and it's pointless, and it offers no plot, and it's not funny, and it's that. It's basically it. It literally hurts your brain. This movie. So the next one I wanted to talk about was another one that the Nostalgia Critic I think would put up there as one of the worst. Neverending Story 3. Oh my gosh, where to begin with this one? For one thing, sucks out the likability of the original characters. And I never saw Neverending Story. Never grew up with it, never saw it. But when the Nostalgia Critic compared and contrasted the original to the third movie, I totally got the sense of what he was saying and how it's so distorted of what it wants to be, of how they established these characters in the first book and how they are in the first movie, and how they completely alter them and make them so dumbfounded and offer no purpose or point but to be as props in this world is just insane. Because again, the Neverending Story is part of being in this world, in this sort of book, and all the characters are just literally sucked out, from like the rock fighter to the I think his name is I think it's Valcor, completely sucked out, and you're left with absolutely nothing, and you're just left with characters that are sheerly stupid. And basically it's the same thing as sort of the Star Wars prequel, where it's like this sitcom-y type thing they try to do with the rock fighter, which they never did in the other movies, and not in the book either, and it's just, ooh, it's just bad. And the message was clear, at least for the second and the first movie. They had like complex ideas. Like the first movie was the idea of the Nothing. Like the Nothing was sort of the antagonist. So was the second movie. But here, the Nasties is basically a bunch of bullies. That's it. No complex entity. The Nothing was basically just nothing. Like the sort of a destroyer of things. And then the second one was sort of like a representation of dying imagination. And here, it's just bullies. Typical school bullies. And it's so creepy. Jack Black literally has a unibrow in this movie, and it scares me. It scares me every time I see that unibrow. And it just leaves you with, just these empty feelings. You don't get anything out of it. There's no emotion. There's just pointlessness, and the plot threads don't make sense together, and the main character is unlikable, and you just don't have anything to hold on to it in the end. There's really nothing for you to this movie can't be saved, like literally. Every scene gets worse and worse and worse. Nothing seems to get better. It seems like everything just seems to go from, okay, you're establishing something, to just downhill. It's basically like this, pretty much. It's just, ugh. There's no other way to describe it but bad. But it's bad in just that different way, and it's more, I think, in the way of what the holiday special tried to do. Trying to make things more on the funny side and do it a sitcom, and it's not. Neverending Story was never a sitcom. Why are you trying to all of a sudden make it a sitcom? It doesn't make sense. Go back to the drawing board. Don't make this movie. Don't try to make this any other kinds of movies like this. It's just crazy. Just crazy. The next film that I'm going to mention now, after mentioning, because I think I've said all I could say about Neverending Story 3, it's just so bad. Oh my gosh. The next one is maybe more of a little bit of a personal one for me, but A Troll in Central Park. A Troll in Central Park. Yeah, that one. I went there against Don Bluth. And Don Bluth is basically the director of A Troll in Central Park. He also directed The Secret of Nim, Land Before Time, which from what I can tell from The Secret of Nim, it sounds like a good movie. I haven't seen it, but I've seen Land Before Time. I grew up with Land Before Time. I loved Land Before Time. But to see this come out of him, even at a young age, I would probably not like it. I never saw this movie, never heard of it until Nostalgia Critic brought it up, and watching his review, it's really hard. And the reason why is for different reasons than other movies that I've mentioned. One is just that how happy it tries to be. My God, this movie tries so hard to be painfully happy. This movie just, it's an overblow of sunshine. It's an overblown of sunshine and happiness. There's no butch or meat to it. It's just pure fluff. Pure fluffy kid stuff for the most part. Like dancing flowers, singing, everything's happy. I don't mind if they make happy stuff for kids. That's totally fine. That's totally salvageable. The only problem is that you don't offer a plot or anything to make those moments really stand out or make those moments really click. I'll give you an example. At one point, there's this really dark moment in Snow White where she's being attacked by the forest. And then, all of a sudden, out of the forest, there comes bunnies and happy creatures, and then they sing all together, and then it's harmonious and it's happy, and it's not an overblown kill. And she learns something. She learns, to be optimistic through whatever scariness has come, and to learn not to be maybe afraid of things. That's kind of salvageable. And in this movie, basically his theme is to just dream. The whole point of the troll, which is the main character in this movie, basically what he says is to the kids in the movie is, just dream. Just dream and things will happen. It doesn't make any sense because that's not how it works. And even Disney movies have established that. There's a conflict, there's a struggle, and then you do get your dreams. But the whole message that they're trying to get with dreams absolutely does not make sense. Offers nothing to the plot. It's so time-consuming out of the whole entire thing, and my God, it makes me want to watch Care Bears. Like, I'd rather watch Care Bears than watch this, because it's just so, the animation is just so brightly cheesy. It's a fake happiness. It's not a genuine happiness. When I see a Snow White scene, I feel genuinely happy. In this scene, I feel like happiness is painful. I don't feel like happiness is salvageable. It feels like something that was literally shoved down my throat and that I was forced to take. It's literally like taking happy pills. Pretty much. Taking something to heal somebody's depression. It's nothing salvageable. There are also, and the point is that the ultimate theme, of, it doesn't have a good theme for kids. I mean, it doesn't even really have a theme at all, but it does tie into the fact that the boy, he wants to do what he wants to do, and he wants to be with the parents, and he wants attention, and sometimes the parents can't give that to him, and then ultimately he gets what he wants. There's no compromise, there's no nothing. And I think that's really a big problem, especially when you're trying to establish the kids as characters. And, so that completely gets backwashed, and you will totally see that, like, they try to establish the theme, and then it gets thrown up again. That's what I mean by sort of backwash. And Nostalgia Critic really establishes that. And the problem too is that the animation isn't anything special. I mean, to me, the animation's just, it's okay by Don Bluth standards, but it doesn't offer anything beautiful. It doesn't offer anything intricate or thoughtful. It's just pure animation that's just creepy. It doesn't offer anything else. It doesn't offer any other emotion but creepiness, because again, the trolls are drawn really creepily. The whole story is just creepy. I mean, the whole thing with the antagonist is just pointless and creepy, especially when she can like somehow communicate with the outside world, and it doesn't make any sense. When you watch the review, you'll understand what I mean. It doesn't make any sense. And it shows like how he could come up with something like Land Before Time, like something really, really beautiful and depressing and heartbreaking and uplifting, to this, which is completely the opposite, offering nothing salvageable. Nothing is there. And I think I'm repeating salvageable a lot, but that's because that's what a lot of these movies are. There's nothing worth value in them. And to me, this movie has really nothing going for it. It doesn't establish anything. The characters aren't likable, or have any depth at all. It's just painful. It's painful to watch, because the troll is so happy. I mean, the troll is really, really happy, and it's an uncomfortable happy. I get that you want to try to make the character nice, but there's other ways of going about making a character nice than trying to make him happy all the time. You don't need to do that, Don Bluth. You don't, and you didn't need to do this with this movie. I'm sorry, but just bad. Ooh. Next one I want to talk about is Baby Geniuses. Oh my god, Baby Geniuses. Creepy imagery again, uncomfortable, sort of to the extent on how I think Troll in Central Park is uncomfortable, and how I think everything else is just uncomfortable. But the main problem that I have with this movie is the recycled jokes. Like, they use the same joke constantly and constantly again. There's nothing charming or innocent. They're trying to make a movie about babies, and they make it so creepy and so deranged and weird that it doesn't come off charming or innocent, or you know, you don't even really like the kids. I mean, even the babies are just kind of odd and just creepy, and they're just not cute, and they're not funny, and they don't do anything worth watching. And another thing is the entertainment value is not there either, because you don't have anything funny or amusing or innocent or charming. There's no emotions left into it, but the sheer absurdity and its stupidity. In particular, you'll see this in the climax, where the babies, they do escape this place that they are being held at, and literally they use all of the creepy objects, like the creepy clown, the creepy baby, and they use that as their climax. The movie literally tries to establish, like, this is the climax, this is what we've been waiting for and being invested in. And it's so stupid and mediocre and half-baked that it offers absolutely nothing. We know absolutely nothing about the babies. We don't get any sense of what these personalities of these babies are, or sympathize for them, because we don't even know if they're really, like, really feel like they've been held really against their will. I mean, it doesn't feel like that the place is trying to, all it's doing is trying to have them be studied. And even that is still weird. I mean, the whole plot is just odd. There's no likable characters in it. There's absolutely nothing to hold you on to you. There's no good funny parts in it. They're just all, oh my gosh, when the baby starts dancing, just complete utter torture. When when they start talking, it's creepy and it's not charming or anything. And the whole premise of babies being geniuses is just so dumb, because we know obviously that's not true. Babies aren't geniuses. They don't have developed brains. Duh. They're not smart, okay? And yeah, it's just dumb. Why are you trying to make babies smart? Babies aren't supposed to be smart. It's completely pointless, and somehow that they're smarter than adults, and that babies have a language. It's so they really tried to drive this plot, but this plot gets nowhere because we know that it's not true, and it doesn't make any sense why that would be true. So yeah, I think this one bothers me in particular, and all these other ones that I've mentioned as well. It's just that they try to go with these most ridiculous plots that are just so ridiculous and just not likable and not salvageable. They don't have anything to offer. So that's basically Baby Geniuses in a nutshell. It's just the recycled jokes, and then there's no charm to them. There's just nothing there that can show me that I could be invested in these babies, because these babies don't offer anything. The next one I wanted to talk about was the other Titanic musical. Not the first one, the second one. And the second one, although it does have better animation, that doesn't mean jack crapola. You know why? Because everything else is horrible. It's an insult to history. It copies Titanic. It makes no sense, lacks realism, and it drifts so far away, so more than the other one, than the original Titanic musical, that it's worse. It is worse, legitimately worse, and I think it takes things, and even though the first Titanic was absurd, it still had sort of a beginning, middle, and end, and kind of established itself, and at least it wasn't trying to mess with history. This one tries to mess with history because it completely changes what really happened on the Titanic. Basically, what the movie says is that all the people survived, there was no accident, and that basically a giant, and again, this is an animated movie for kids, basically a gigantic octopus put the Titanic back together. How are you trying to put this with a real ship? Why are you even doing this? This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't offer anything, any history, anything else to this movie. And the reason why it's like Titanic is, again, is they have the whole love story, saying like that somebody wants to, the girl doesn't want to marry somebody that she doesn't love. They have a villain sort of in the story, similar like they do in the real Titanic movie. It's just, oh my God, is it painful. Very, very painful, and nothing worth time. The mice are also in this one too, and again, there's mice that go up aboard on the Titanic because this is a kids movie. And oh my God, no, just no, please God. These mice offer nothing. They're not funny. They're not amusing. They're just nothing. They just offer nothing funny. They're awkward to watch, especially when the lines that they're given at times. You'll just see why this film is so horrendous to watch. You will see why the Nostalgia Critic decided to parody the Star Wars 3 prequel. You will understand that, and why he did that. Because this movie is just really, it is a big no. It should never have been made. It should have never been conceived of by man. It's crazy that somebody would make up this stuff. And literally they make up the fact that it was all a scheme by sharks to somehow get an octopus to throw an iceberg to hit the Titanic. That's basically how how this movie explains how the Titanic sank. Yeah. Doesn't make sense. Then suddenly dolphins have the power to shoot moonbeams. Again, who could orchestrate this stuff? Somebody must have had something in their brain completely messed up, that they just did not know what they were writing, and they just started writing things together, or they gave it to the script to a 5-year-old and said, hey, write something. What happened on the Titanic? This is basically how a 5 or 4-year-old would explain how Titanic worked. Like, literally, you would probably get something like this, because this is basically how it's orchestrated. And it's insulting, and it doesn't teach kids anything, and it offers nothing. Don't watch this movie. Don't watch it with your kids. It's just bad. At least from my perspective, it's just really, really bad. Next one I wanted to talk about, second to last one, is Milk Money. Oh yeah, I brought up Milk Money. This movie's awkward and not appropriate for children. The reason why I say it's not appropriate is it's because basically these really young kids, who I'm guessing are probably 10 or younger, they want to see a prostitute naked. That's basically the movie. That's basically what sums up the entire movie. Like, literally, I mean, I understand that kids are kind of maybe curious about that stuff, but they go about it in such a inappropriate way and don't offer anything salvageable to it. That it's frustrating, and it's completely awkward, and it's not the way how you approach your kids with these issues. It's just not. This movie is just totally the wrong formula on how you deal with it. And the problem with that is when you create this unrealistic scenario, you create unrealistic responses to how the characters interact with one another. The way the prostitute reacts to one of the kids' fathers is completely irrational and just god-awfully dumb. And the way the kids react to the woman is so just rude, and yeah, you saved us, but let's take off your clothes. We're allowed to do that. It's just so strange. And then they have like these awkward scenes where the boys lift up their shirts, and oh my god, it's horrible. It's I literally feel perverted watching it because it's just so disturbing. And it doesn't approach it in a dignifying way. If it would, then it would be. You know, if you want to do this, do it in an adult, mature way. You know, do talk about these issues in an adult, mature way. And these kids aren't ready to talk about this stuff. They're not. I mean, it's clear from the movie. They don't even know what those eyelashes clippers are. They don't know what they are. They think it's some other device, and it's crazy how they don't know it when they should know that kind of stuff. But yet they know stuff about, like they know about porn and all that stuff. I mean, it's just, oh gosh, it's just, don't show your kids this movie. Just don't. It's just not good for them. It's like if Full House met, maybe met Showgirls or something like that. Like, literally. I'm not kidding. It's just, oh my gosh, it's just bad. I think it's just bad in that way, in that it does something so inappropriately, and it just becomes offensive. Like, it kind of offends me watching it, because they do it in such a disgustingly perverted way, and has no dignity. Like, this movie has no shame, that it bothers me. Similar in the way that the Titanic movie bothered me. And then I'm not talking about the real Titanic again. I'm talking about the other Titanic movie, which is basically an animated sort of type musical. Again, I don't think there really is singing in this one, in the other Titanic musical in particular. But the first one I think did have more singing. It had a rapping dog. Not kidding you. Gosh, just really, really bad. All right, last one, number 12, people. Is Jungle to Jungle. And oh yes, I brought up this movie. Oh yes, I brought a Tim Allen comedy movie. And yes, it is bad. And why is it bad? There are several reasons. Ho ho ho. The characters are so unlikable. Again, that unlikable character. Tim Allen's character is just so, oh my gosh, he's such a jerk. Doesn't learn anything throughout the entire film. Does nothing worthwhile in it, and is stuck in such a stupid scenario of, for some reason his wife lives with native people, and for some reason she bears his kid and doesn't even tell Tim Allen. But I mean, again, he is one of those guys who's just like, yeah, I'm into the stock market and I don't care about family and blah 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 blah. And it's just so bad, because the way that they execute the characters, Tim Allen's son in the movie is unlikable, his wife's unlikable, and he's unlikable. You pretty much have my word in it. And the problem with this unlikability is the acting. I don't think it's so horrible, but unlike The Room, but the problem is it's not funny. There's nothing funny in this movie. It's nothing funny. It's just pointless stuff that happens that tries to become funny and it doesn't. Awkward moments that really don't have anything of salvage value to it. Doesn't provide a unique story. The plot is all over the place. Deals with Russian mobsters. Again, a movie about a husband who finds that his son is being raised by indigenous people because his wife chose to live in that lifestyle, and now they go back to New York, and now they realize how their two different worlds are, and even from what I've already told you, that doesn't lead to anything, because it doesn't. They decide to combine it with this Russian mob, and who deals with the stock market, and develop some sort of scheme with that, and it's supposed to be for kids, and it doesn't tie anything together well. And the characters, I think the main problem I had with this movie was just the characters were just really unlikable, and it was just really painful to watch. And basically, the Nostalgia Critic, I think, best summed it up more than I could. But I think it's one of the worst, because again, it's one of those movies that is even lower than The Room on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think there's a reason for that. And I think it's just the fact that there's nothing there, and the sheer absurdity and the sheer stupidity that come out of this. And the problem that I have for all of these movies, every single movie that I mentioned, including this one, is just there's no creativity. I think that's my main grip with all of these movies. I found nothing really necessarily creative about them. I found nothing about them interesting or helpful. And they ended up being just more obnoxious, more annoying, more insulting to me as a human being than all of the other ones that Nostalgia Critics reviewed. Because for the most part, the other films that I've seen that he's reviewed are just kind of mediocre for me. They're not necessarily so bad. They're just mediocre, and yeah, they just either they have one thread of the plot or one thread of what's going on to be really stupid, and then everything else is just mediocre. But for the most part, I found everything about these films to just be throughout painful, throughout nothing there, throughout the entire film. I don't get a smile, I don't get a chuckle, I don't get anything. With the other films, I was okay with them, because to me they just came out more as mediocre rather than just being constantly bad, or they were just consistently bad, and on the bad level of mediocre. But these ones that all the ones that I've mentioned are just so on the boundary levels of low that they offer no emotion. I get no emotion out of it. I get nothing as a viewer out of these films. Nothing. It tries to give me something, and I get nothing in return. They get, they got people money, but for the most part, they got horrible reviews. They're not really, all of these films I don't think you've really heard of or maybe recognized. Have you not seen the Nostalgia Critics reviews? But I will post them all in the links. But for the most part, there's just nothing there. And from what I've explained, from the reasons why they're not good, I think is the best way I can describe them to you, of what I've described throughout this video. For the most part, is just that they're just so bad constantly throughout for me. For me personally, like everything that came out, it wasn't like I was like, yeah, nah, it doesn't bother me. These movies bothered me. These movies constantly bothered me. Constantly throughout the film, I was constantly bothered and irritated and angry. These were those 12 films that I mentioned were those films. But again, you may have other opinions. You may think that there's one other film that you found to be constantly bad. Be more than happy to hear your thoughts on these films, but for the most part, the ones that I picked, I think I'm pretty happy with them, because for the most part, I thought that they were just consistently bad and consistently didn't offer me anything throughout. There was not one point where I felt invested and I felt like the movie had some sort of potential. It was just complete and utter waste of space, pretty much, these movies. But that's all I think I can say for the most part. I don't mean to be like a little bit ranty. I don't like to rant. I don't like to be really against things, but because I guess I put that on part of the fact that I'm partly Swiss and I don't like conflict. But for the most part, these films are just so bad that I'm just going to be on my bad term here on this video and just say I don't like these movies. If you find something salvageable in any of the movies that I mentioned, totally understandable. I'm totally willing to hear you out. But for me, they just do absolutely nothing. And I wanted to know if anybody else feels the exact same way that I do about these films, or if they feel different. I'm totally open-minded and I'm totally curious. But I think that's really all I can say before like going on and more, because this video in particular was really long. Apologize for that, but I felt like I really needed to explain the depth as to why these movies were just really annoying and really frustrating to me. But again, I think that's really all I can say. Any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. And until next time, bye-bye everybody. And try to find some good movies. But maybe if you do watch a bad one, maybe you'll understand, you know, what really irks you about movies. And I encourage you to watch Nostalgia Critic's reviews on them, because he does provide you with the most in-depth-ish sort of concepts of what the movie is trying to address, even though it's just addressed so horribly because the execution of these movies is just so bad. So I think that's all I can say. Any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. And until next time,